Okay, in this video we'll take a quick look at some troubleshooting considerations if you're having issues with the KEM module turning on with your 3PCC phone. What I'm using right now is a 8851 3PCC phone. It is registered to WebEx calling. I have one of the older KEMs, the BE KEM, and I did pre-configure in the LCD menu of the screen to let the phone know that this is a BE KEM, so that is a very critical component. If you don't tell the phone the proper KEM you have attached to it, it is not going to function correctly. So that's one thing to be aware. We'll take a look at that in a few moments here. So in any case, I'm doing a Wireshark capture concurrently. We'll take a look at the actual packets here in a few moments, the transactions between a phone and a switch. What's going to happen is right about now the phone's going to be telling the switch it needs additional power via CDP protocol, and when the switch is able to provide additional power, as you noticed, the KEM will actually come on. So one of the key aspects in troubleshooting is analyzing the actual CDP packets, if you're using CDP or if you're using LDP, between the switch and phone. Is the phone asking for more power? And is the switch able to provide the additional power? Because if that portion of the communication is not happening, or there's some type of issue, the switch can't provide the power, or the phone is not asking for additional power, then you will have issues where the KEM won't turn on. So we'll take a quick look at the menu right now. So we'll go under status, and you will see this is 8851 phone. This does have the new 1205 SR1 firmware. This is registered WebEx calling. So as the recording of this video, 1205 SR1 is the current firmware. There's another section of menu that actually gives us more information about the KEM. So it's going to be accessories, a tenant console, and then we can see we have tenant console unit 1, unit is enabled. It shows a hardware version 2.0, shows the firmware that this KEM is running, 1205. It's a BE KEM. I'm going to blur out the serial number for obvious reasons. Okay, description of it. Okay, so everything here is working fine. So this is just an example of what type of information we want to capture. Okay, we're going to take a quick look at 3 different approaches in doing a Wireshark capture. This is kind of a precursor for troubleshooting considerations for KEM module. If you're having issues related to KEM module not powering on, the first method is going to be port mirroring, where we basically have a source port, monitor port, which is source. That's where the phone plugs into the switch. We have a destination monitor port. That's where the notebook with Wireshark plugs into the switch. This would be the most common scenario that most folks would run a Wireshark capture. The one item that can be misleading when troubleshooting PoE issues, we need to make sure we're capturing CDP packets and or LDP packets being transmitted from the switch towards the phone. In some cases, when we're doing port mirroring, source port again being the port where the phone is, the transmit packets like CDP transmit packets and or LDP may not be mirrored to the destination port where we have port monitoring configured. So later when we go to analyze the Wireshark capture, it is illustrating to us that the switch is not sending any LDP and or CDP packets, when in fact that may not be accurate. So just be aware, scenario number 1, left-hand side, is the most common scenario, where you'll probably do a port mirror, source port where the PoE phone's at, destination port, another port in the same switch, you'll plug a PC with Wireshark. But be aware there's going to be situations where CDP and or LDP will not be copied to the destination monitor port, so it can be very misleading. So scenario 1, you just want to keep aware of that. Depending on the make, model, and firmware of your switch, this may be a limiting factor. The middle example is where the switch has an embedded PCAP function. So if the switch offers an embedded PCAP function, leverage it. And again, do you see transmitted CDP and or LDP packets to the phone? So that's something you'd want to evaluate to see if there's any limitation with the embedded PCAP function. And the third scenario is typically what I like to do, because I may be troubleshooting with different types of switches, different models of switches, firmware, etc., and this really eliminates any guessing. You know, am I seeing all of the transactions between the device, in this case the PoE phone, and the actual switch? And what I'm using actually is a network tap. It's a PoE network tap, meaning it's allowing the PoE to go from the switch to the phone, and I'm able to capture all the packets using this network tap that are being communicated between the phone and the switch and vice versa. So this is the technique I'll be using today to be guaranteed that I'm not missing any packets when I'm doing analysis and troubleshooting, example like a PoE issue with KEM or other issues that might be troubleshooting. Okay, we're going to take a look at the Wireshark capture. The MAC address, I'm only going to show the last two digits. 78 is going to be the switch, and then the MAC address that ends with 6 C's and Charlie is going to be the phone. So we'll take a look at this first CDP exchange, packet number 19. Okay. So the switch is saying power available 30 watts. And then the second item is 12.2 watts. This is a CAT 1300 that I'm testing this with. So the next packet is also from the switch, MAC address source 78. Nothing's really changed here. Okay, so this will be the first CDP packet from the phone itself. The phone is at 8851. This is at the phase where the phone has not attempted to power on the KEM. It is showing power request at 9.4 watts. Power consumption currently is 8.8 watts. Okay, so the next one is going to be from the switch. Power available 9.4 watts, 9.4 watts. Okay, this one's going to be from the phone itself. Power request at 9.4 watts. Power consumption 8.8 watts by the phone. Okay, next one's going to be from the switch. It's showing available power 9.4 watts, 9.4 watts. This next one's going to be from the phone. We are noticing a difference right now. So if we start with the bottom one, it's showing power consumption 8.8 watts, such as the first one here. Power request at 8.8 watts, but the second one is showing 12.2 watts. So this is the phase where the phone's going to attempt to turn on the KEM, key expansion module. Okay, so now the switch is saying power available 12.2 watts for both variables here. Next one is also the switch, again restating 12.2 watts for both variables. Okay, and now we have the phone, power request 12.2 watts, power consumption 12.2 watts. So this is the phase right now where the actual KEM is turning on. Okay, power available 12.2 watts, 12.2 watts. And then we'll look at the last CDP packet. This one's coming from the phone. Power request 12.2 watts, power consumption 12.2 watts. So this is the pattern we should be seeing as far as the communication between the phone and switch. And this is one of the items you'd want to focus on if you're running into issues, as far as is there CDP communication between the phone and switch? What is the phone requesting? What is the switch offering? If you're having issues with a KEM not wanting to power on. Also, you would want to make sure the setting for the KEM matches the actual KEM module that you're using. In my example, I have one of the older BE KEMs. You also want to make sure that KEM is supported on the phone itself. So you want to look at the data sheet. In this example, the 8851 phone I have does support the BE KEM, even though it's older BE KEM. Okay, we'll take a quick look at the back of the phone. One of the things in troubleshooting to try is actually unplugging the phone from the RJ45 connector for a few seconds, plugging back in to see if that makes a difference, if the actual KEM comes on or not. This assumes that you've already configured the correct KEM setting in the phone's menu and there's no limitations on PoE. that the switch can provide. One of the other items to look at is the mechanical connection between a KEM and phone to make sure it has not been mechanically compromised or it's not been damaged. There are 2 Phillips screws that hold the two together, left side, right side. And then this is actually the KEM with the connector piece removed from the phone. You notice one of the contacts is going to be a USB connection. The other one's going to have 4 copper traces. We want to make sure, again, we inspect this. There's no damage here mechanically. There's no kind of oxidation, debris. We want to basically just make sure there are no accidents that occurred to compromise this from a mechanical or electrical standpoint. In a few moments, I'll go to remove the other side. We'll take a look at it. It'll be basically a mirror image of this right here. One of the things to consider is moving the actual KEM to a different phone and seeing if the problem follows the KEM or stays with the actual phone. So now we've actually removed the connector that connects the KEM to the phone. Again, we just want to inspect it to make sure there's no mechanical compromises, that it's not been damaged, it's not been crushed, it's not been deformed. The traces look like they're clean, they don't have oxidation, they don't have any type of particles on it. The USB connectors look like they're in alignment, they look correct. Also, when you put it together, it should have a firm connection. There's Phillips screws on both left and right side. We want to make sure everything looks correct. Thank you for watching the video. Hopefully this helps with the KEM troubleshooting efforts. Thank you.